Logan Robinson, Knoll Game Day, breaking down the Knolls for us before spring ball gets started in Tallahassee. We're going through the offense here. And for as, I'll be kind, marginal as this team's been before 2022, the one position that I think has been pretty strong throughout has been the running back room. There's always been options there. There always been really good players. There was a time that I thought Trayshawn Ward might be the guy. There was a time when I thought Lawrence Toafili would be the best back. But it certainly looks like it's Trey Benson, who just got to close to 1,000 yards at 990 last year.
It was so close. It was so close. And I think, too, we would have seen that happen against Oklahoma. Certain things, too, a little dinged up during that game, but he almost reached those 1,000 yards mark. It was so close. But in that game, Trayshawn Ward was the only one finding success going north against Oklahoma. It was the same way when it was the LSU game. If you look back, Trayshawn Ward was Florida State's best back. Trey Benson took a little while to kind of get the rust off, get kind of comfortable after dealing with that knee injury, and he opened up to us after fall camp saying, I think it's really going to hit me when I get into a real game, take a few hits, and then things are going to start rolling for me. And sure enough, it did. Trey Benson, a guy that came from Oregon, all of, a majority of us, definitely at least from covering the team, kind of question mark the staff, the fans were not happy whatsoever. But whenever we got to go to practices, that's the kind of cheat code we get to use. And Florida State and Mike Norvell allow us to go to these practices to give our readers, our listeners, content that is really, about as close as you can get to, we can't share doing best in and what scheme, where he's lining up at, but we can tell you Trey Benson is going to be a good player. And people kind of, okay, cool, fine, we'll see. And then once you saw him get going, it was like, okay, yeah, he's got what it takes. And, I think the biggest thing, physical back, can bounce off these tackles, these guys coming in the back and the backfield early on in the season. It took a little while for Florida State to build that chemistry on that offensive line. So Trey Benson, we saw his abilities to be able to get off of those tackles and saw that mix of speed, special teams. He was the only he was since 2013, Kermit Whitfield's 2013 national championship kick return. There hasn't been one since now. Trey Benson last year, bringing it back to the crib. I mean, Trey Benson can kind of do it all. And now he's coming back for another year. I think he could have moved on. Do I think he should have? I don't think so. I think another year to put on some tape and show scouts, staying healthy and he can do this for another season. And absolutely, it was a great idea. Florida State's running back room, very excited to have Trey Benson back this next season. It's just, you love seeing stories like that. And you follow college football, you cover all this, Mark. It's just always great to see where the player proves the outlets, the national media, the fans wrong. It's incredible. And Florida State fans are super excited to have him back in the backfield going into the 2023 spring camp.
So Logan, when we look at the rest of the guys that will need to give him a blow and obviously round out the backfield, how do you think it shakes out at this point?
Well, I was hoping Florida State was going to be able to retain Lawrence Toafili. You said it earlier. There's times where dang, Lawrence Toafili can be a starter at Florida State. And if you think of that, then that means he could have opportunities to go elsewhere and do the same thing. He's going to stay another year. Coach Yak, Florida State's running backs coach, David Johnson, he does a great job developing back there. And I think Mike Norvell, there's a few assistants that I can kind of tell at practices or watching games. It's Alex Atkins and David Johnson, where just let them do their thing, let them do their coaching, because it's gonna find its way for success on Saturdays. And he's been able to do this with a lot of running backs. Trayshawn Ward now going to Kansas State, going to be a starter over there. I'm super excited for him. I hope he balls out. And then Lawrence Toafili now it's deciding to stay in this room, knowing damn well Trey Benson is your starter going in 2023. I just think, I want to see more utilization out of Mike Norvell for this. I'm not looking so much more out of Lawrence Toafili, I would say personally, going after him, because he showed me a lot with physicality early on that he can be used at goal line. He was one of Florida State's best goal line running backs going through the multiple camps this last year, I was like, damn, okay, he put on a little bit of size, but you just saw the powerfulness that he was bringing, just going north and south, something that he had to work on previously because he was more of an east and west guy. He liked doing the jukes, but I really like the physicality and kind of going a little tunnel vision here and there. I really like Lawrence Toafili, just the way that he's coming back this year and willing to not be selfish, I guess. And that's something that culture has been built here inside the locker room. If you've listened on our Wednesday night shows, you guys would know how much we talk about the culture change that Florida State and Mike Norvell have had to work on. And that whole selfish crap is gone. That is long gone. It's taken a long time, Mark. It's taken a very long time. We've talked about it on here. It has taken a long time, but that just goes to show Lawrence Toafili wants to come back, and it also makes good competition getting right there with Trey Benson. And I think one that is going to be on his heels, though, heels is going to be Rodney Hill. He's going to be good, and I don't really need to describe it even more. Didn't get to see a whole ton of playing time. You saw a little bit there, here and there, but going into this spring camp, get ready for a lot of Rodney Hill, because from what we saw in spring and the size that he put on quickly, he really is, to me, he's a thinner Carlos Williams. If you go back and look at some Carlos Williams tape, I did this a couple of days ago watching some highlights with my roommate. Just kind of picture a Carlos Williams, but just a thinner body, maybe a little bit better with the hips, can kind of go east and west better if need be. I just really like the way that this now redshirt freshman coming into a spring camp is going to look. And I think Florida State, Mike Norvell, Coach Yak are going to give him a lot of opportunities. And Trayshawn Ward leaving here is going to help allow that to happen. It's going to be also him with CJ Campbell, also a walk-on running back who, sadly had to deal with an injury last year early in a camp, and then got to see him later on in the year. I think Rodney Hill, CJ Campbell, but specifically Rodney Hill, a guy that we're going to see take that next step because he's got the mentality to do so. Just the kid that shocked me a little bit. I'll say it. I wasn't expecting much. I wasn't expecting Rodney Hill to make a huge presence on the football field on games, but just to see him in practices and him understanding the system. I see the coaches, they don't have to go to him to correct him on a lot of things. He's getting the job done. His assignments are right. And when you do those kind of things and you're watching film correctly and you know where to be whenever you're able to go through your walkthroughs and going through your installs Tuesday, Wednesday, and you're putting a product out there, and it's going to be hard to get Rodney Hill off the field, Mark. So keep an eye out on him for a guy. If we're going to start naming some guys to watch out for this spring, Rodney Hill, young running back.